caretaker. He was the maintenance person for the church. And so my guess is, I'm pretty sure that he spent more hours at the church than the rest of us knew. We probably have someone here that could help explain that, maybe experienced something like that. But then one year, Bob became ill with cancer. I don't remember how long he was sick, but eventually he passed away from the cancer. Everyone at the funeral expressed kind words and things like this. They'd say, well, he never complained about anything. And he always had this big smile on his face. They were right. And then one day, a member of the church congregation told me about an outdoor light that had burned out. It was a light right above the double doors that go into the sanctuary. It was on the outside, and it was covered with the plexiglass. It was locked down, and nobody had ever heard of that light going out. It went to the chairperson at the trustees, and they couldn't remember the light going out, and they didn't even know where the key was to open the box to change the light. A few weeks later, the clock in the back of the sanctuary stopped running. So one of the younger men, he climbed up there and changed the batteries. But one lady said, well, I've been coming to this church my whole life, and I've never seen that clock stop. I just assumed that it was plugged into electricity. After several more similar incidents occurred, it became obvious that Bob was the one who fixed things. He was the one that kept things going smoothly at the church. Not many knew about how many things, what a good job Bob had done through all those years. They didn't know just how much he did. But today, if you go to that church, it's called Blaine United Methodist Church on Beacon Hill, you'll find a room that's named the Bob Webb Room. As the folks look back at his life, overwhelmingly they said, yes, let's name this room after him. It's an African-American song that was recorded in 1955, and then they did an update in 1961, and it came from a poem. The poem and the song are both titled, Give Me My Flowers While I Yet Live. And the song says, whether they are real flowers or simply words of love, give them to me while I'm here, God will give them to me above. That's just a reminder. How often do we wait until people are gone to give them the flowers? Do we tell people how much we appreciate them while they're still here and they're among us? Well, today we're going to talk about Lent, the season of Lent, and how if we choose those ashes, for all who chose the ashes on Wednesday, or those who weren't able to be here as well, how we could turn those into alms. This is a time to reflect on how we've been doing, to see how much better we could be doing if we're intentional about this journey. This is a time to pay attention and say no to temptation, yes to Jesus. But it's not a time of just looking inward. It is also a time of giving alms. That we should give something to someone else who's in need, a hand up for somebody who's struggling a bit. The season of Lent, it is a time to reflect on how we live our discipleship in the world around us. You'll hear people say from time to time, it's the time where we would have an attitude of gratitude. An author and a hymn writer, his name is Johnson Oldman Jr., he wrote a song based on this scripture. It was from Ephesians 1:3. And it says, count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God has done. Do you and I truly count our blessings? I hope so. I mean, do you show others how important they are to God? Do you tell them that they matter and that they're appreciated? Just this week that I heard a discussion. And I saw that there's this new way of exercising. It's called a shame dieting exercise. The idea is that we point out to somebody's body shape in negative words and phrases, that the person will decide that they have to change their eating habits and they have to start exercising more. The problem is that negative words rarely produce a positive change. Shame and negativity most often create a depression or anxiety or stress or bitterness. If someone is trying to change, wouldn't you rather have them point out, you don't want to hear the flaws and the weaknesses, wouldn't you rather have them point out things that are motivating, things that encourage you and support you with love and say, yeah, you did it better there. The next time you can take that next step. I find that's how Jesus did it. There's a study that shows overwhelming that it says that people overemphasize their workouts. Researchers from York University in Canada had 129 participants and they were jogging. And this whole experiment was to describe to them in detail what is a light workout, what's moderate, and what's vigorous. So after all of this, the people did it. They did their workouts, and they wrote down how they did, but they almost all, 75% of them, wrote down a number that exaggerated the level of exercise they had. For example, people believed that they were performing rigorous physical activity at the levels that were nowhere near that. 75% of them overestimated what they had done. They'd failed to meet the requirements of a vigorous pace. How often do we deceive ourselves into believing that we too are doing our very best to say, I'm giving 110%, that we're exceeding what's expected, only to discover the truth is that maybe we're falling short on the mark in many ways. In other words, the study says that people often set the bar too low and they overestimate their contributions and the accomplishments. Do we sometimes have a false sense of reaching the goal? I think one example is that during Lent, people are often encouraged to do random acts of kindness. Now, don't get me wrong. I like random acts of kindness. I do that. I love it. I enjoy it. But I think what it's saying is if that's all we're doing, then we set the bar way too low. I believe that Jesus has set the goal to change random kindness into deliberate, intentional acts of kindness. So we are called as believers to a purposeful reflection and to have, maybe to some degree, some fasting to remind us the season that we're in and to serve others with thoughtfulness. It's not a hit and miss here and there, kind of a random chance thing, but a purposeful, persistent, meaningful act of kindness. That's the repentance of giving of alms, to take it from the ashes to the alms. That's what it looks like. If you want to give up something during the season in Lent, that's fine. It's a good thing. It can remind us of what season we're in. But what God really wants of us over the next few years is for you to search your heart and to make a decision to give yourself to someone every day. Lift up a disciple, someone here, someone who you're going to see outside. To take each moment, to live each moment as we make every effort to strive towards perfection and rise above mediocrity. Now, we always talk about perfection. Well, I'm only human, I can't be perfect. I like that humble heart. But we can rise above mediocrity. Every person here can do that. While the season of Lent is about repentance and recognizing our flaws and sins and responding with apologies and atonements, Lent is also about maturing in our faith and growing towards our holiness. It's easy for us to do what's right when we gain recognition and praise right away. There's a lot of folks like that. But ask yourself, next time I do a good deed, would I still do the same thing if absolutely nobody saw me do it? Nobody other than that person is going to know that I did it. See, Matthew, he wrote, "Take heed that you do not display your alms before men, to be seen of them. Otherwise you have no reward of your Father which is in heaven." What I'm saying is this: be kind and generous with whatever you have. Shower people with words of hope and support. Be a blessing by your Christian love. Encourage people with words and with your actions. Be generous in your judgment of others. Err on the side of praise and compliment. I'm not talking about false flattery or where you just butter someone up so you're going to get something because you said something nice to them. No, there are actually two different Greek words that mean reward. The first one is an equal trade. The first one says, well, I'm going to give you something and you give me something. I'll go to the store and here's $30 for the shirt, and I get the shirt. The other one, the word is different. The one in this scripture is mistos. And that means when we are not expecting something in return, like that which God bestows upon us when we ask for something. We find God gave it to us. Or maybe gave us something better than what we asked for. We can do this. We can take those ashes from Wednesday. We can turn them into alms for people. This is the right time and the right place for us to make a difference in our world. Praise be and amen. Amen. And I invite our servers to come forward that we may set the table for communion. I have a bit of a cold today, so I'm going to use a lot of hand cleaner.